Hey there, this video is going to be a bit different from what I usually do. I am going to be showcasing one of my projects, but the project's main goal isn't to have a big impact, or at least the potential to. Like my direct air capture project could remove CO2 from air, and my previous project could make charcoal barbecuing more sustainable. But no, today we're just going to be solving my laziness.
Emotional damage!
In my house, there are 15 plants, which each take about 30 seconds to water. Now, that may not seem like a lot of time, but over the course of a decade, that would amount to 65 hours worth of time wasted. In that time, I could fly from New York to Paris almost 9 times. So to solve this, we'll be using an Arduino Uno, which isn't sentient, so it can't really waste its own time. And to let it know when the plant needs to be watered, we'll be using this SC28 moisture sensor, which measures electrical resistance between these two prongs to know how much water is in the potted plants. And to move the water, we'll be using the simple little 5-volt pump. Now, let me show you how we'll wire it together. Alright, so over here is our Arduino, which is like the brains of the operation. And it's ground and 5-volt power are split into this breadboard to power the relay and the sensor. So when the sensor detects that the plant's dry, it lets the Arduino know through this blue signal wire, and then the Arduino puts this relay in the close position, which lets the pump temporarily turn on and get power from the 12-volt power supply to pump water through this pipe. Now, let's have a look at it in action. Now, to build it, it was pretty simple. I just followed the wiring diagram and put the components in place where I planned for them to be. However, while manipulating the Arduino, I accidentally knocked off one of the teeny tiny SMD components off of it, but luckily I was able to solder it back in place. And also, the 5-volt power from the Arduino wasn't enough to power the pump for it to push the water, so I had to rely on an external 12-volt power supply to power it. And then, in terms of the code, it was pretty simple. I just told the Arduino in which spots I plugged in the components, and I just had a loop running over and over again, telling it that when this sensor notices that the soil is dry, it turns on the relay, which then triggers this pump. So overall, this project went pretty great, but I have to make changes in 2 areas, the cost and the user experience. In terms of cost, having one of these Arduino Unos per plant really wouldn't be cost effective, so I'd have to adapt the code to allow multiple plants to be connected to the Arduino to just use one, but due to limitations of the Arduino, I could only have about 6 plants connected to it, so I'd have to use something like a Raspberry Pi 02W, for instance, when they become back in stock. And in terms of user experience, my mom would definitely not approve of the solution design-wise with all of the messy cables, so a custom PCB to put all the components on would be really nice, and as the cherry on top, ribbon cables going from the sensors in the plant to the Raspberry Pi 02W would also help neaten things up. And also having a much larger water tank or a sink nearby would be nice so that you don't have to fill up the tank, which basically defeats the whole purpose of this project. Or at least since the Raspberry Pi 02W has Wi-Fi, it can be integrated into platforms like Home Assistant to alert users when they need to fill the water tank back up. Overall, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you'd like to learn more about the project, I'll have my article linked down below, and if you don't want to miss my next project, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. Bye, and see you next time.